In the last video in this series on how to learn, I explained the first essential step that you need to take when learning something new. Understand the terrain by getting the big picture. This is also the first step in our three-part learning framework, Principles of Learning. Principles of Learning is a free guide my husband Paul and I created in order to make the learning process efficient and effective. It's a hands-on practical system from the learner's perspective that you can access for free at howtolearneffectively.com. By following the advice in the last video, you identified what topics you need to learn. This will make your learning process far more efficient. Now, let's talk about how you can make your learning process effective. And that's the aim of the second step in our Principles of Learning framework, learning effectively. On our website, howtolearneffectively.com, you'll see that there are several learning tactics you can apply under this second step in our framework, Learn It. In this video, I'm going to talk about what it means to learn effectively. I'm also going to share one learning tactic you should try. Paul and I repeatedly faced the same challenge when it came to learning new topics. We didn't have effective learning tactics to apply. So, we defaulted to the bad habits we picked up in school, memorizing, mindless repetitions, rereading texts over and over again, and passive watching. As it turns out, a lot of people default to similar techniques when trying to learn something new. And anyone who's used any of these tactics can attest to how ineffective they are. In our case, we often found ourselves pouring a ton of time and effort into the learning process, but we were not seeing the results. Learning new things not only was time-consuming and frustrating, but we often felt like we were spinning our wheels. We felt like we were going nowhere. This alone was reason for change. Now, there's a lot of theory about how to learn, but we needed practicality. We wanted specific, concrete tactics geared toward everyday people just like us. Specifically, we wanted a concrete answer to this question: how do I learn X? And X could be anything that we were trying to learn about, whether it's for personal or professional reasons. So, we've implemented and created several learning tactics to help us learn many different topics effectively. And among us, those topics include programming, computer science, math, art history, writing, investing, entrepreneurship. Now, the tactics that I'm referring to make up this second step in our Principles of Learning framework, which you can see on howtolearneffectively.com. Although each tactic is different, there are common themes among them, including focusing on quality, not quantity, really understanding, not memorizing, getting feedback from others, to identify areas of improvement and to build mental models, stepping outside of your comfort zone, which is where you learn and grow the most, and actively applying your knowledge first, instead of passively watching lectures or rereading texts. While I do highly recommend you checking out our website, howtolearneffectively.com, to see the different tactics we offer, today I'm going to focus on one of those tactics: apply first, study second. Apply first, study second means to actively apply your knowledge first. Attempt the article, attempt the design, attempt the problem. Then turn to passive modes of learning, like reading a chapter or two in a book or watching a lecture or two when you get stuck and can't progress any further. Apply first, study second emphasizes the attempt. You don't have to write this amazing article. You don't have to create this amazing design. Attempt the article. Attempt the design. There's immense value in the attempt. Applying your existing knowledge first draws awareness to the roadblock. This is the thing you don't know or need to get better at. You'll think to yourself, how do I do X? For example, your roadblock might be, how do I prepare smooth gravy? How do I transition between paragraphs when writing an article? How do I use a for loop in Python? Now that you're aware of the roadblock, toggle to passive modes of learning, like reading a chapter in a book or watching a lecture or two, in order to get yourself past this roadblock. But, and this is a key point, when you do turn to passive modes of learning, focus on the information that's going to get you over that roadblock. Don't try to learn everything about cooking, for example. Don't spend time relearning concepts you already know. Instead, zone in and focus on your question: how do I do X? For example, in our case, it could be, how do I prepare smooth gravy? Then, once you have the information that you need, go back to the situation at hand and apply your newfound knowledge. If you get stuck again, follow the same iterative process. Identify your roadblock, then identify a resource that can help you get over your roadblock. Finally, head back to the situation at hand and apply your newfound knowledge. Apply first, study second can be boiled down to this: get what you need when you need it. And you only know what you need if you actively apply your knowledge first. Apply first, study second runs counter to how most of us got through school. It also runs counter to how many learning platforms operate today. In both cases, passive modes of learning are often emphasized from the start. And that's because passive modes of learning are easier to create for the masses instead of active ones. For example, it's far easier to watch a math expert solve problems than actively solving problems yourself. But easier isn't better when it comes to learning. We're easily seduced into believing that learning is better when it's easier, explain the authors of the book Make It Stick. But the research shows the opposite. When the mind has to work, learning sticks better. More to the point, emphasizing passive modes of learning from the start can be problematic because it often creates an illusion of our abilities. You think you're learning as you cycle through a bunch of lectures and a countless number of details. You think you got it because you're watching an expert who makes the process look so easy. However, it's often an illusion, and you don't realize it's an illusion until you're forced to actively apply your knowledge. Then, often an unfortunate reality hits: big knowledge gaps. It's frustrating and time-consuming to rely exclusively on passive modes of learning and not have much to show for it. This scenario often happens when you don't actively apply your knowledge from the start and systematically build it up over time. So the point is this: the quicker you get to the doing, the better the learning. So make your learning active from the start with Apply First, Study Second. Apply First, Study Second is just one of many learning tactics we offer on howtolearneffectively.com. So by now, you know what topics to learn and how to learn them effectively. And for many people, the learning would stop there, but not you. You not only want to learn, but you want to retain your knowledge along the way. That is, you want to remember what you learned tomorrow, next week, next month, and 6 months from now. In other words, after sinking a ton of time and effort to learn something, you don't want to forget it all. And that brings me to the final step in our Principles of Learning framework: retain it. It's also the topic of our next video. So I hope you'll join me in our next video, and it's our last one, on how to learn effectively. In the meantime, we'd love to hear from you. So leave a comment below and let us know about your learning journey. Thank you so much for watching, and make it an effective day.